So it's time for a Renoviction vlog update. So on Thursday, I went to a tenant meeting. It was mostly elderly residents there. I was kind of surprised at how many of the residents in this building are quite elderly. I guess that explains why it's so quiet. There were a couple of young women there who are engaged with the local municipal government. So that's a good sign. So there's actually someone in the loop here pushing back on the municipal government to make them aware of what's going on. There was also some talk at the meeting about a potential bylaw being passed, and I guess this would be similar to another recent bylaw that was passed in, I think it was Hamilton. Apparently this bylaw would make it just a little bit more difficult to renovate tenants. So in this building, there was an entire slice of the building where everyone in that slice, that vertical slice of the building, they all got eviction notices at once. And apparently this bylaw would mean that you need to get just a little bit more paperwork to make sure that these tenants actually need to be renovated, instead of just saying like, oh, we need to paint this wall, so we have to renovate everyone. Some sort of proof that they really do need to renovate people. Now, from what I gather at the meeting, I don't believe that there are any active tenant board filings at the moment. So the notice that the landlord gave out to all those tenants, it's not an official legal notice. It's just the beginning stages of trying to get people to coerce them to leave. However, it is possible for them to eventually file with the tenant board and then begin the eviction process, which I think there's an initial 90 days or so that they have to vacate if they actually file with the tenant board. But of course, the tenant can then start interacting with the tenant board as well and delay the process. There was also some discussion about general issues with the building that the tenants had noticed. There was some concern given to apparently issues with the garbage room. Garbage is piling up down there, and I think there may have been a changeover in the contractor. So there was a contract with the previous owner of the building, but now that it's under new ownership, there's some hitches in the new garbage collection. But I think that as of today, things are okay. And as long as that gets resolved shortly, then it's not a huge deal. There was also apparently some concern with the recycling not being picked up. Then someone else suggested that there were some tenants that put some large objects of garbage in front of the recycling area. And so it was actually an issue where the person that picks up the recycling wasn't picking it up because there was a buildup of, it was like a couch there or some mattresses or something in the way. And they're not required to move that stuff. They just come back the next time. So again, if that goes away, it's not a big deal. Now, as for the issue of sewage backing up, after my neighbor received the Renoviction notice, there was some concern that maybe that was intentional. Some people have suggested that maybe it was not intentional. And at the meeting, there was some discussion about other renovations that are apparently taking place in the building. So apparently they had to shut off people's water for a couple of days, and apparently some people complained of not having hot water for a few days. Apparently some of the newer units are getting dishwashers installed, and the plumbing here is not set up to handle that. So I guess that's probably why they're renovating some of the piping. Could be that the new dishwashers have something to do with the sewage backing up. I'm not sure. Overall, it's still a bit concerning, and it makes me want to not leave the apartment for a long period of time because I don't want to come back to a massive sewage problem. Now, the issue of hot water being shut off for a couple of days, that's not a huge issue. If that's the worst problem I have to deal with, then I think I'm doing all right. Okay, now let's talk about my goal of trying to do one video every day for the next 30 days to get my ad revenue from $300 to $1,000. So as you can see, the views are basically still flat, but the revenue is up. And there is a absolutely massive increase on this day here when I released my first video, and the reason for that is due to a single disproportionately large super thanks donation. So as you can see, the video only made $5 from ads, but $301 from super thanks. And as you can see, that makes the RPM for this single video go to $131. Now, the original donation amount was actually for 400 Canadian dollars, but as you can see here, it lists it as 280. And that's because Google takes a fairly large cut of donations. Now, it's a good question if that 30% cut is a bit too much, because I think the YouTube platform does give you a bit of protection against chargebacks and stuff. So Twitch streamers actually have a really big problem where sometimes people will maliciously donate money and then, onto a fraudulent account and then charge it back later. And when that happens, the person who got the donation will lose the donation, but then they also have to pay a chargeback fee and a bunch of other nonsense. So I think part of the value add for YouTube is that they protect you from that a little bit. I think that's probably worth it for smaller donations, but for larger donations, it seems a bit steep. Regardless, that one single donation put me a lot closer to being at my goal of $1,000 over the next 30 days. So thank you very much to that very generous individual. Now, it's also worth looking at the long form advertising, and that still is reasonably high. So in the last couple of days, it was $21 and $15. So if it continued at that rate, that would put me at about halfway toward my goal. And if you look at my video views in general, it looks like these are on schedule to get at least a few thousand. This video here got quite a few views fairly rapidly, but then it looks like everyone in my core audience probably saw the video, so then it leveled off. Now the video about my analytics, that one looks like it's underperforming by quite a bit. The average watch time is pretty good, so it looks like people probably still enjoy the video, but my guess is the thumbnail probably doesn't match what the audience is normally looking at on this channel. And my video about contractors versus employees already has almost twice as many views as the previous video, even though it was published a day later. And it looks here like it's trending above the average view count, so maybe this one will be a good one. Okay, that'll be all for today. This will be a shorter video than normal. I'm only on day 4 of this one video per day, and I already feel like I'm extremely behind. For the video that I released about my YouTube analytics, I had planned to have that done and released much earlier, but it just kept taking more and more time, and it was really a photo finish. I got it done just before, like 10 minutes before midnight is when it released. The process of editing the video, rendering it, uploading it, all this stuff takes quite a while. And for yesterday's video, I thought I learned my lesson, so I decided I'll keep this a bit shorter and I'll have it done way before midnight. But again, this one, I think I didn't release it until like 11:30 p.m. So hopefully I'll get this one out a bit faster.